You're quiet this morning. Usually by now you've shown me three memes, fact-checked my statement about the weather, and scrolled through a mile of newsfeed. I'm savoring the silence. Or not the silence exactly, the lack of noise, the digital noise. My brain feels freshly laundered.
Freshly laundered. I like that. So the great 24-hour digital detox wasn't the torture you predicted? I seem to recall you calling it a barbaric trip back to the Dark Ages.
Okay, I might have been a little dramatic, but you have to admit, Saturday morning was rough. Waking up without my phone was a genuine physical shock. I reached for the nightstand and my hand just slapped the wood. It felt like a phantom limb.
I heard the slap from the living room. I was already up, making coffee on the stove like a bona fide pioneer. I knew the first hour would be your Everest.
It was. My first instinct was to check the time. My second was to check my work emails. My third was to see what happened in the world while I slept. I felt completely unmoored, like a ship cut loose from its anchor. I paced around the apartment for 10 minutes, genuinely anxious. What if there was a family emergency? What if a client had a meltdown? What if a meteor was heading for Earth and I was the last to know?
And what was I doing while you were having your apocalyptic meltdown?
You were sitting at the kitchen table with a real paper and ink newspaper looking infuriatingly calm. You looked up at me over the top of it and just said, "The world seems to be intact. Coffee's ready."
I was a calculated risk. I figured the smell of fresh coffee would override the existential dread. Did it work?
Eventually, after I asked you what time it was for the fourth time, but the real shift happened when you dragged me out of the apartment. Leaving without my phone in my pocket felt irresponsible, naked.
I remember you kept patting your pockets, but then we got to the old bookstore. Tell me about that.
Ugh, the bookstore. I hadn't been in one of those for years. Not properly, anyway. I usually just order online. The smell hit me first. That amazing sense of old paper and binding glue. We must have spent 2 hours in there, just wandering down the aisles, pulling out books at random, reading the first few pages. I found a vintage copy of a cookbook from the 1960s with hilarious, bizarre jello mold recipes.
I found that dusty collection of poetry and actually sat on that little stool in the corner and read for half an hour. No notifications, no pop-up ads, no one messaging me, just the words on the page. It felt so singular, so focused.
Exactly. My attention span felt like it was stretching back out to its original shape. Then you bought me that paperback, the mystery novel. You just handed it to me and said, "For later."
And then came the map, my masterstroke.
You and your stupid, giant, crinkly map. When you unfolded that thing on the hood of the car, I thought you were joking. I said, "Just tell me where we're going." And you pointed to a random green splotch and said, "Let's go get lost here."
And did we?
We absolutely did. My brain, so used to a calm GPS voice telling me to turn left in 200 feet, was in revolt. We were arguing about whether to take the fork in the road by the old oak tree. I was convinced we were heading into a different county.
But we weren't looking at a screen. We were looking at each other. We were looking at the actual road. We noticed things. You spotted that little farm stand selling fresh strawberries. We wouldn't have seen that if we were just following a blue line on a glowing rectangle.
Those strawberries were incredible. We sat on the grass by the side of the road and ate them right out of the basket. And we talked, not about anything we'd seen online or a show we were binging. We talked about that weird crooked tree and what we wanted to do next summer. And we made up a whole backstory for the farmer who sold us the berries.
My favorite part was lunch, pulling out that old cookbook you had found.
I thought you were insane. My first reaction was, I'll just look up a recipe on my... Oh. It was a genuine moment of panic. But then we opened the book, the pages were stained and worn. There were little handwritten notes in the margins from the previous owner.
add more garlic next to the pasta sauce recipe. We honored her wish.
We did. We made a mess. There was flour everywhere. I had to actually measure things instead of just converting from a website. We put a real CD in your old stereo, David Bowie, and we danced around the kitchen while the sauce simmered. It was clumsy and chaotic, and one of the best meals I've had in my entire life.
Because we made it with our hands. It wasn't delivered by a stranger we tracked on an app. We earned that pasta.
And the evening, that was the real magic. Usually, we'd collapse on the sofa and each stare at our own phones or maybe put on a movie. But we couldn't.
So we sat on the balcony as the sun went down. The sky turned pink and orange. We just watched it, silently.
And then I pulled out the book you bought me. I read the first 2 chapters out loud while you just listened. Your head was in my lap. I can't remember the last time one of us just listened to the other without also scrolling through something.
Your voice was the only soundtrack. It was better than any show. Then the stars came out.
We tried to find the constellations using the star chart in the back of an old atlas I had. We were probably completely wrong, but it didn't matter.
It was the connection, wasn't it? The whole day. It felt like we were connecting to the world and to each other without a filter, without the middleman of a screen. When I finally went to bed, my mind was so calm. I didn't feel that frantic need to do one last check. I just closed my eyes and fell asleep.
And this morning, when you finally turned your phone back on, what was it like?
It was violent. The buzzing, the vibrating, the cascade of notifications. Hundreds of them. Emails, social media alerts, news headlines, texts. For a second, it felt like a swarm of angry bees.
And you know what? 99% of it was junk, utterly irrelevant. An ad for shoes I don't need, someone's opinion on a movie I'll never see, a work email that could have waited until Monday. The meteor hadn't hit, my family was fine, the world had in fact kept spinning without my constant supervision.
So, the freshly laundered brain?
That feels amazing. It made me realize technology isn't the enemy, but my relationship with it was out of control. It was the default for everything: boredom, curiosity, communication, entertainment. Yesterday, we had to be creative. We had to be present. We had to be with each other.
So, same time next month?
Don't push it, Pioneer. But yes, absolutely yes. Maybe next time we'll even try to build a fire without watching a tutorial first.
Now you're talking my language. Building a fire without a tutorial? I'm picturing you trying to rub 2 sticks together while simultaneously looking around for a Wi-Fi signal to stream a survival guide.
Hey, for your information, I am a very resourceful woman. I could use my glasses to focus the sun's rays. I saw that in a movie once.
You don't wear glasses.
Details, details. It's the principle of the thing. The point is, I would have figured it out. Probably, eventually. After complaining for an hour. But it makes you think, doesn't it? About all the little skills we've outsourced to our devices. Navigating, remembering phone numbers, doing simple math, even just being bored.
Especially being bored. Yesterday afternoon, during that quiet lull after lunch before we went for our walk, what did you do?
I sat on the sofa and just stared out the window for about 15 minutes. At first, it was maddening. My fingers were literally twitching, itching to pick something up and scroll. I felt this pull, this gnawing void where mindless stimulation was supposed to be. But then a weird thing happened. My brain, having nothing fed to it, started to generate its own content. I started noticing the way the light hit the dust motes dancing in the air. I started thinking about the color palette of the street outside, the gray of the asphalt, the green of the neighbor's hedge, and the pop of red from a passing car. I actually got an idea for a new design project, not by searching for inspiration, but by letting my mind wander.
So, your freshly laundered brain is also a more creative one?
I think so. It's like It had room to breathe, which brings me to something else I realized. It's a bit strange. Go on.
I don't have a single photograph of yesterday. Not one. Normally, a day like that, I'd have 100 pictures on my camera roll. The cookbook, the strawberries, the sunset, a selfie of us covered in flour. My digital memory of the day would be perfect.
But
But the memories in my head are clearer. They feel more three-dimensional. I don't just remember what the sunset looked like, I remember the feeling of the cool breeze on my skin as we watched it. I don't just have a picture of the strawberries, I can still taste them. I remember the sound of your laugh when I got sauce on my nose. It's like, because I knew I couldn't capture it digitally, my brain worked harder to capture it emotionally, holistically.
the mental photograph theory. When you know you can't save it to a hard drive, you save it to your own soul. You actually live the moment instead of just documenting it.
Exactly. And it made me see everyone else differently. When we were walking back from the park last night, we saw that family eating dinner on their patio. Dad on his phone, mom on her tablet, two kids playing games on their own devices. They were all together, but they were a million miles apart. It used to be normal to me. Yesterday, it just looked profoundly sad.
They were in the same physical space, but they were each in a different digital universe. We spent the day in the same universe, sharing the same input.
It's a bit scary, isn't it? How easy it is to slip into that? You think it's connecting you to more people, but it's really just isolating you in a bubble of your own curated content. It's an echo chamber for one.
So here's the billion-dollar question. What now? We can't just throw our phones into the river. My job requires me to be online, and your entire career exists on a computer. We can't be Luddites.
No, we can't. And I don't want to. I love being able to video chat with my sister across the country. I love the tools I use for my design work. But this experiment, it recalibrated my perspective. It's not about abstinence, it's about intention.
Intention. I like that. So, what's our intention?
For starters, the bedroom is now a technology-free zone, officially. We're buying a real alarm clock. I want the first and last thing I experience every day to be the real world, not a glowing screen.
I can get behind that. A sanctuary.
And I propose one analog evening a week. Maybe Wednesdays. From dinner until bedtime, all screens go off. We can read, play a board game, listen to a whole album, or just talk, like we did yesterday.
I love that. It's not a punishment. It's a protected time, a deliberate choice. And maybe I'll start taking a lunch walk without my phone. Just me and my thoughts for 15 minutes. A little daily detox.
See? It's not about a grand, dramatic rejection. It's about building small fences, creating spaces in our lives that are just for us, unfiltered. It's about remembering that we are the masters of the tools, not the other way around.